on financial planning.
Hello, I'm Rolando Tobias, and today I'm going to be talking to you all about financial planning. Well, as a matter of fact, I prefer to use the term financial discipline. We talk about budgeting, we talk about money management, we speak of financial planning, but I prefer to call it financial discipline. Why financial discipline and not just financial planning? So this evening we're going to discuss discipline, what it takes to really ensure that you can manage your finances in the right way so that you can live a very comfortable life. We're going to look at the importance of a budget. We look at the difference between personal financing and investing, looking at terms such as wants, needs, and investing. We're also going to look at expenses and how do you track your expenses. We're going to talk a little bit about the 50-20-20-10 rule, and then we're going to look a little bit at actually making a budget and what goes into making a budget. So I encourage you to join me as we now begin this session of financial discipline. Let's first look at what is financial discipline and why do we say financial discipline. Now, it is said that we're all millionaires in life, and whether some of us believe it or not, it is a true fact. Because if you were to just take your average monthly salary of 3,000 guilders, multiply that times 12, you get 36,000 guilders. And if you started to work when you were 30, by the time you reach 60 and you multiply 30 by 36,000, you would have earned 1.8 million guilders, or dollars if you prefer. Which means throughout your lifespan, you have been a millionaire. Now the only difference between the true millionaires and others is the fact that some of us are not financially disciplined enough to ensure that by the time we reach that nice, comfortable gray age of retirement, that we can say we're financially well off. So today we're going to look at financial discipline. Planning and setting goals is of extreme importance. But if you do not have financial discipline, plans and goals will make no sense. The fact is, they say, if you do not care for your money will not care to stay around you. Now let's take a look at a budget. Why do we say it is important for you to budget? What is a budget? What's the importance of a budget? I like to just break it down in very simple language. A budget is a system, and it's a system that you can save yourself steps, time, energy, and money. So a budget is a system that helps you save yourself steps, time, energy, and money. It's actually the perfect system because it teaches you how to live within your means, how to effectively manage that whatever you receive and what you have to pay out. But it most importantly teaches you how to set goals, how to set priorities, and how to structure in order to achieve whatever it is you want to achieve financially in life. Now you have to understand that budgeting isn't about limiting yourself. It's not about being cheap or being frugal. No, actually when you budget, you're making sure that you can get the things that excite you in life. So budgeting helps you to make the things that excite you in life possible. And when you budget properly, you can live a quite comfortable life. Now let's look at the difference between personal finance and investing. There are many people who say, I have no money to invest. Well, you always have a choice because at any time in life, you're always getting or giving out money. The question is, how do you go about doing it? And often, it's not really the lack of money, but it's rather the lack of priorities. And priority setting becomes very important when we're talking about money and investing. Every day, we are making conscious decisions, and every single dollar adds up in how we decide to use those dollars. So instead of looking for that iPhone, maybe you need to look at brand X. Or maybe instead of the Mercedes-Benz, maybe you need a regular car. And instead of going out and buying that $65 shirt, maybe a $25 shirt would do just as good. It doesn't matter once it looks good on you. So when it comes to budgeting and investing and finances, you need to understand that you have to change your priorities. And if you simply change your priorities, you'd be amazed to see how better you would do at managing your personal finance, and then that would allow you the opportunity to invest. As you can see on the slide, it says personal finance is only 20% head knowledge, but it's 80% behavior. That's where the discipline comes in. It's in your behavior and how do you behave with the money that you get on a daily basis. Now, if you want to really decide how you're going to behave and what your behavior is going to be, there are three things that you need to look at. First, needs. Second, wants. And third, investing. Now, if you were to look at Millionaire Mick or the average Joe and look at their needs, wants, and how they invest, you will notice that Millionaire Mick spends 25% of his income on his needs. He spends just 10% on wants, and then he's left with 65%. And that 65% he uses to invest. Now, what does the average Joe do? The average Joe spends 55% of his income on needs. He spends 40%, almost half, on wants. And if you take 55 and 40, that takes you to 95, which means he's only left then with 5% to invest. And then you wonder why one is called Millionaire Mike and the other one is called Everyday Joe. You see, becoming financially free is all about budget allocation. Your goals should always be to reduce your needs, reduce your wants, and increase your investment opportunities. And when we hear the term investment, we think very big. We think, oh, you need to have millions in order to invest. That's not true. There are many different ways in which you can invest. But you have to understand the laws of investing, or what we call the laws of wealth gathering. There are 6 laws of wealth gathering. Let's look at them now on the slide. The first law of wealth, it says, keep a part of all you earn. Save at least 10 to 20% of your income. And later we're going to see exactly what we mean when we say save 10 to 20% of your income. That's the first law of wealth. The second law of wealth says, put your savings to work for you. Invest your savings where it can multiply. Put it to work for you. So while you're sleeping, your money is working for you. The third law of wealth says, avoid debt. The poor pay interest while the rich earn interest. Let me repeat that. The third law of wealth says avoid debt. The poor pay interest while the rich earn interest. And you need to understand the difference. The fourth law of wealth says don't speculate in get-rich-quick schemes. Invest in a solid business opportunity that is long-term. The fifth law of wealth says invest in yourself. Gain as much knowledge and skills as possible. Never stop learning and increasing your knowledge. Every opportunity you get to increase your knowledge gives you an opportunity to increase your earning power. That's the fifth law of wealth. And the sixth and final law of wealth says safeguard your growing fortune. How do you safeguard it? By diversification and insurance. Diversification. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. And ensure that however small your fortune may be as it's growing, make sure that you insure all aspects of that fortune. Now let's look at tying a goal to a budget. If you're going to manage your money properly, you must have goals that are tied directly to your budget. And while you're setting these goals, you have to ensure that the goals are what we call SMART goals. SMART goals. SMART. S for specific and self. So it must be a specific goal and it must come from you. Don't allow others to set goals for you. M, measurable. The goal must be something that you can measure. So if you plan for 12 months, you have to be able to see after 3 months, after 6 months, after 9 months, whether or not you're making the right progress towards your goal. A is for achievable. Achievable means, is it something that you can really do? Or is it realistic and rewarding? And then finally T, what is the time that you're setting for that particular goal? So that's SMART goal, S-M-A-R-T, S for specific, M for measurable, A for achievable, R for realistic, and T for time bound. Examples of goals for you could be getting a brand new car, getting that mortgage for your first home or your second home, or sending a child to college. And when you decide to set those goals, make sure that you use that SMART concept, because if you do that, you will be well on your way towards achieving your goal. Now let's take a look at expenses when we're talking about financial discipline. And this is where a lot of people tend to get carried away because it's so easy to incur expenses. It's so easy to spend. Now, not all expenses are the same, and all expenses though should be categorized and prioritized. And you would notice that there are 3 main types of expenses. The first category are what we call must expenses. And then in there you have must fix and must variable expenses. And these are the types of expenses that you cannot do without. Next we have what's called optional expenses. And in there you have optional fixed or optional variable expenses. And these are the expenses that, yes, at times you can do without those. And the third category then is what I call reserving expenses. Reserving expenses. These are the kind of expenses that they may come once in a while, but you can budget every month a small portion as you prepare for that expense so that when it arrives, you have everything that you need to satisfy that expense. So those are the kind of expenses: must expenses, optional expenses, and of course, reserving expenses. Let's delve a little deeper though in tracking your expenses, because earlier I said sometimes it's so easy to spend, it's so easy to incur expenses. Some of us, as soon as we have money in our pocket, we feel we have to spend it. And if we don't spend in 1-2 days, we start to get concerned. How do you track your expenses? Well, however you decide to track your expenses, I just want to share a few pointers with you, just for you to become more conscious of how you can track your expenses. Now, as you see on the screen, the sign at the bottom says, beware of little expenses, because a small leak can sink a great ship. And as you're looking at expenses, I just want to share 4 categories with you. First, donations. In our society nowadays, it's nice to be generous, but you have to ensure that you have a limit. And you have to know where to set that limit, and when you reach that limit, to keep it. So you can set a limit for donations, monthly limit, but once you've reached that limit, then you don't give anything till the next month. Now there's something that I refer to as professional beggars. Professional beggars. And in our community, in our society, at times, as I say, we're very generous people, but we have to be careful sometimes with our generosity. As the saying goes, we must have limits sometimes. Givers must have limits, because takers never do. And if you don't have limits when you're being generous and people are asking you, that is an expense that might seem small, but as it multiplies, it can sink a great ship. Entertainment. You go out and you party. You go out and you intend to have a good time. But having a good time does not necessarily mean that you have to incur all kinds of expenses. There are lots of ways to have a very good time without having to incur excessive expenses. Now on the screen there you would see an example of nightclub expenses. The average nightclub, parking, $20. To get in, 2 persons, $20. Drinks, those of us who like to live it up, you can have an average of $150. $15 for pre-drinks, as we say, as you get in. Food, $10. That's a total of $225 for a night of entertainment. Now if you multiply that by all the weekends, you get 104 weekends, Saturdays and Sundays. That's a total of $23,400. That's a down payment right there for a home. So within 1 year of reducing your entertainment expenses, you can see how much you can save, and that can go towards something else. And then the final one is fees. You have to be careful of fees and charges. And later on we'll talk a little bit about how you can be a bit more careful with fees and charges. And finally, sometimes you have to tell yourself no now, so that later you can be telling yourself yes for any and everything. So if you practice telling yourself no now, incurring less expenses, later on you'll realize that anything you need, you will be able to say yes because you've saved for it. Now let us take a look at the 50-20-20-10 rule. The 50-20-20-10 budget rule. And as you can see on your screen, the 50-20-20-10 rule says the following. First, 50% of whatever you're spending should go into essentials. 50% should go into essentials. What are essentials? Groceries, housing, so better rent, mortgage, utilities, as well as insurances, particularly health insurance. So 50%. And then the second one, 20%. 20% should go into savings. And this is savings you normally save for 2 reasons. You either save for opportunities or you save for emergencies. So you're either saving for financial goals or you're saving money for a rainy day. So that's 20% in savings. The next 20% then goes into the wants. The wants. The shopping, hobbies, and entertainment. And then you'll be left with 10%. And that 10% then you can put into investments. Long-term investments or any kind of investment that can multiply your money. So that's the 50-20-20-10 rule. 50% should go into essentials, 20% into savings, 20% into wants, and 10% into investments. And you will notice that with that 50-20-20-10 rule, it still allows you to do everything that you want to do in life, but then you're more disciplined in terms of how much you're expending into each category.
It is our hope at Phillipsburg Jubilee Library that you enjoyed those inspiring and motivational guidelines on practicing financial discipline. Part 2 on budgeting will be aired shortly, and we encourage you to tune in and continue giving Phillipsburg Jubilee Library your support.